Hello, class. Happy Thursday. Let me do something here. All right. Let's get moving today. So, today is part 2 of the typography lesson that we're going to be going over. I'm going to talk a little bit here about kind of like the layout of the class from here on out is going to be a little bit different because we are getting in the participation questions from here on out. And so like I mentioned before, participation questions are going to be due every week by Wednesday end of night. If I don't have them by Wednesdays by like midnight, the module will close and I can't accept anymore. Let me just say hello in the chat. In case anyone's there quite not yet. Anyways, yeah. So participation questions on Thursdays, they're going to be due Wednesday nights by midnight, and then on Thursday at the beginning of class, what I'm going to do is open up all of those video questions and go over them and answer your questions for you guys. I got quite a few. I think there were only a couple that were missing this past time. Hi, Sarah. How are you today? I missed just didn't have a couple in submitted. So we have quite a few to go over today. And it'll be nice to be able to see everyone and kind of get everyone's, get a feel for your classmates, which will be nice. So before I do that, though, again, we're going to be going over 2 different types of typography today. Last time we went over, on Tuesday, we went over easing the type. So you see right there. We went over easing type in After Effects with our good, better, best animation that we did. I'm doing well, Sarah. Thanks for asking. And then we are going to do the contact information today. This is the one we're going to be doing. Didn't mean to do that one, but we also did our fading text on Tuesday. And then today we're also going to add in, if I can get to it, the Cinema 4D text, which is something a little bit new that we've added into this this assignment. So first we'll go over the questions. Then I'm actually going to show you guys, because we had a lot of questions in Slack this morning in particular about bringing in the hand-drawn animation into After Effects. And essentially what you have to do is interpret the footage, right? And then you're going to loop that content. So I might quickly go over that as well today, and then we'll get to the contact information, and then if we have time we'll get to the Cinema 4D. And if not, if we don't have time to cover the entire thing, this video right here, handling type in Cinema 4D, this one, and then this one, actually these 3 here are going to be the ones you're going to want to watch. I probably will not get to assembling the project today. Let me just clear this up real quick. Okay, so you'll do, let me go over this again. You'll do the handling typography. If I don't get to it, you can watch it. Is my render taking too long? Because this will be a lot of good information for you. And then especially this one for sure you guys will have to watch is assembling the project, right? Because essentially what we're going to do is take all of those plus our Cinema 4D and composite them together in After Effects so that we can render out one video. And this I have due, I believe, on Monday by midnight. So I'm excited to see some of these. On Monday, we also will probably go over some of the bouncing ball animations and give you live feedback if I have time. If not, I will try to get to it this weekend. I will be out of town, just to let you guys know, so we might not be as responsive because I'll be dealing with some family matters. So this weekend, I will try and get to grading those and giving you guys feedback inside of Canvas. And if not, we'll go over it sometime during next week for all the bouncing balls. So you guys have a little bit of time. Like I said, it's only been a week. And yeah, so let's kind of get into it right now. With the questions, I apologize as well. I've been so dry lately and stuffy nose kind of as well. I am from the Midwest. I'm from Michigan originally, so you guys probably can hear my accent. I know it comes through very strong when it comes to being like over a microphone and stuff. So anyways, let's get to these. All right. First up is Eric. Oh, okay. Here's something you guys will want to see. Let me move my picture out of the way and retry and open this. Right away, I received a warning saying it can't open the file. And the reason, what I was reading, is it had to do with the file extension. Up here, Eric, specifically, it looks like don't worry about this part right here. This has to do with like how it files your guys' videos inside of Canvas. But it looks like you renamed your file to 1.23.23, which is January 20. I understand why you did it. But if you have a period inside of a file name, and this goes for everyone, just so you guys know, it will mess up the file extension because then it doesn't understand where to start reading it. The file extension always comes after a period. And so with that being said, it's thinking that the file extension that you have is going to be after the 1. So you'll have to, go ahead, Eric, and resubmit that video to me if possible, or just ask your question inside of Slack at some point this weekend, and I will give you credit because you did turn it in, and it was turned in on time. I just wasn't aware that the file extension was an issue, so go ahead and change that. And yeah, hey Eric, I'm happy to see you're in the chat. Yeah, it's kind of just something you learn. If you ever want to put to like separate words inside of a file, I usually use an underscore or a hyphen. So just in case you guys don't know, an underscore or a hyphen to separate words inside of your file extension. Never a period, but like I said, Eric, just go ahead and submit that into the Slack or something, or you can send it to me in Canvas mail, and I'll try and get that answered for you. So, but I'll still give you credit on that, full credit. So Asia, I believe it's.
So for my question this week is about the Adobe After Effects.
Let me just check. Please, you guys, let me know if that's blowing your ears out, because I definitely do not want that to happen. Okay, Eric, let me read that. My main question, Eric's in the chat right now, class, and he says, my main question was that the composition wasn't showing up in After Effects through OBS. Um, that's kind of weird. I don't know if that might have just been some odd kind of glitch in the system. It might have also been had to do with it's echoing. Okay, hold on one second. I know it's echoing because it's also picking it up through my mic. So, uh, I'm sorry. Let me finish answering Eric's question and then I'll play it and then just let me know in the chat how it's going. But Eric, it might have to do with where your screen is showing. So like if I bring OBS here right now, this, if I select my display, right, it shows that it's the red line around the outside. First of all, this ghosting in the middle, or like this infinite level, like it almost looks like a funhouse mirrors. It's just what happens when you're recording your screen. But this outline right here will determine what people are seeing on your screen. So if I'm going to shorten this, you'll see all of a sudden your guys' view is going to change. You guys will only see that part of my screen at that point. And so then I have to expand it back to the original size, and you're able to see my entire screen. So it could be that. It could also be another issue. Did you ever by chance happen to try recording it more than once, Eric? Just let me know in there. And real quick, I'm going to test that. I'm going to go ahead and play, I believe it's Asia, and that's what I'm pretty sure you said.
Hi, so for my question,
I know it was echoing there, but if I shut my mic off real quick, I'm going to play it and you guys let me know if it's not echoing anymore.
this week is about the Adobe After Effects. I noticed that after I opened up the zip file properly, in order for the PNG of the ball to open up and show in the After Effects, I would have to physically open up the image itself in the file, or else it wouldn't show up in Adobe After Effects. I didn't know if this was maybe an issue on my end, or if this is just how we're supposed to make sure that PNGs open up properly in Adobe After Effects. Let me know. Thank you.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, thank you, Sarah. I just have to mute my mic. So if I stop talking all of a sudden and play the question, that's why. Basically, Asia's question actually had to do, you guys, similarly, people have reached out to me this week and asked about that issue. It must have been something with the file, the Cinema 4D file that was on the module, and so I had changed that at a certain point, but it wasn't hold on one second here, it was not essentially moving over, it wasn't linking correctly inside of the After Effects file. And so let me see here. So what you have to do is you have to go into that let me just double click here and open up a file and show you guys how. I believe I did this last week too, but the problem is that this ball right here in the footage folder for some reason wasn't linking up to the project in After Effects. And so what you guys were seeing was that weird like colored box, right? And so what you have to do is right click on the asset inside of After Effects and make sure that you just repair that link, right? And I believe we talked about this right here, and we'll just touch on it real quick again. This you will see this often because After Effects always does updates, like at least 4 or 5 times a year. Sometimes it's better not to have auto updates on, because when Adobe products run updates, usually there's some kind of bug or issue that they haven't fixed yet, and it causes things to stop working within After Effects, or really weird issues that were working before and all of a sudden weren't working again. And so that's why it's really best to just shut off auto updates and only really update your software, you know, every 4 to 6 months, really, after they've kind of worked out all the kinks, or like a couple 3-4 months after they've actually released a new update. But every time they do an update, it's going to tell you that it was an older version and that it's converted, or if it goes, like if it's a big update, that's what it'll say. And so you'll just always hit OK, and then it's just gonna, what it'll do up here is it changes that extension to have converted after it, so you know just which one it is. And what I usually do at that point when you hit OK is I hit Control S to save, and it's going to want you to, it's going to be like a save as at that point. And then I'll just like change this extension a little bit, right? Or change the file name a little bit if I need to. I did create a 2023 version for you guys, so hopefully that worked a little bit better. But again, if you for some reason download this one, you will just right click here on the ball PNG, and then you go to replace footage, and then to file. And let me just make sure I change where I am at. Oh, not that one. Let me change my camera. All right. I'm going to make myself disappear here once I start doing tutorials, so you guys don't have to look at me, but you'll be able to see all of the software too. Again, right click, replace footage, file. Navigate to wherever the file is, and then hit import, and it will be linked up to your After Effects again. I believe that was your question. Let me know if I didn't answer it, and I will help you a little bit more there. But all right, let me go to the next question. Close a couple of these. All right. This is Brandon.
I don't have.
Pause that. I'm going to shut my mic off. I really need a stream deck.
I have a specific question from this week, but I was just wondering when, like, drawing over 3D animation became more popular.
Okay. That's a good question. You know, I industry questions are always good to ask, right? Because you never know until you ask someone who's actually working in it. I would say that the popularity of either or, like from what I'm understanding of your question, Brandon, is that you're wondering when 2D animation has again gained more traction than 3D animation. And if I'm wrong, let me know. But I think it's just kind of like an aesthetic thing, and just kind of like fashion, right? Fashion goes in and out of style, and what you'll see is it reoccurring again in different decades. This is fashion, right? But like with new twists for it. So right now, you know, the big, like in my opinion, what I'm seeing is a lot of fashion styles that's emulating the early 2000s, like and so similar to that, right? That concept. The same goes for 2D animation and 3D animation. You know, I think that emulating certain styles, but being able to do it in a more efficient manner is really what you can highlight there, right? Is like how powerful computers have gotten versus when you had to hand draw animation on paper, and you were, you know, flipping big pads of paper inside, and that's how the Disney animators made things, right? That's my generation, Y2K, by the way. And they're good and bad. We'll just say that. And I just gave away my age to you guys, but yeah, I mean, it just, you know, really big with 3D animation is pushing realism and lighting and texturing and physics and stuff, and 3D animation is just getting so much more powerful, each and every day. In 2D animation, there's a lot to said about it's just more of a graphic style, right? Like it's more, I don't want to say it's not more artistically like free. Like you still have artistic freedom in both of like 2D and 3D animation. I just think it boils down to preference, right? What kind of people are looking for more. And you see a lot more people adding different color palettes and kind of grungy textures to things, which also, just trends. Things just trend. If you want more questions about that, because I'm also not sure if you were asking about rotoscoping, which is essentially drawing over imagery. They used to do that with the old Disney films, where they would have a live action footage and they would draw over top of it. That is a lot of work and it's exhausting. And just sometimes, it's a very specific look doing rotoscoping. And I'm not saying it's bad. It's not a bad thing. It's absolutely fine to do. But it just kind of depends on what you're going for at that point. And Eric said that he tried twice with his recording just After Effects directly rather than the whole entire screen. It could have done that. Yeah, you might want to try and you can always try rotoscoping, sir. But Eric, you might want to try doing it with capturing the entire screen and then seeing if it's an issue or not. And also, when I open up After Effects, I'll try and remember to show you what else could have happened. Was anything showing up at all inside of like where After Effects should be, or no? Yeah, Sarah, I agree with that too. It can be really, if you do it badly enough, it can rotoscope. Anyway, if you try hard enough to make something bad, it will be bad. So, anything can be bad at that point. But all right, let's move on. I'm gonna mute my mic here again.
Hi, I was just curious. I just have a really random question about like these two brushes. I'm just wondering like what's the difference between the two since I just want to know what the difference between these two since they're both brushes and one of them.
That's actually a really good question, Yesenia. I believe I'm saying if in the next video, you guys say your first names so I know how to pronounce them correctly, because I don't want to go throughout the class saying your names wrong. And so just make sure you mention that at the beginning so that I can just hear how you guys say it. And right now I'll guess. So if I slaughter your name, I'm sorry. But Yesenia, so the one that you're selected on right now, or that you're hovered over, this one is called the fluid brush tool, and this one here is just called the brush tool. Now, the biggest difference is you'll also hear the fluid brush being called a GPU brush, and basically it utilizes your GPU, the graphics processing unit, right, to have a little to essentially like emulate a little more physics into the brush. The main differences, right? They're both vector-based brushes, but the fluid brush, the one with the circle, it allows you to configure line styles a little bit differently. So you'll have control over like velocity of it. So when you're drawing, it turns out different. Like it might continue moving. It will also, you also have control over stabilizing the brush and also over smoothing. There's a few other controls in there as well that I can't remember. And the brush tool, the just regular brush tool below that one has automatic smoothing on it, but it's not as customizable, right? And it doesn't use your GPU. So there's a little bit more power when it comes to being able to use that the fluid brush tool. Now, if you guys open up your Adobe Animate and it is grayed out and you cannot click on it, that just means that your GPU, I believe that means that it's not able to support. You might not have the correct GPU, like an NVIDIA one. NVIDIA GPUs are mainly what they use in gaming, and I'm sure you guys play games and just know the power of NVIDIA GPUs. And there's AMD, there's different ones as well, but just, you know, if it's integrated, you might not have, if you have an integrated GPU, you might not actually have that option to use that brush tool. And so if you don't have that option, that's not going to bother me. You can use the regular brush tool. I'm not going to dock you guys. Like, I'm going to want things to look as smooth as possible. But if you're using a mouse, I mean, there's only so much that can happen. It's, unless you're a master at using the mouse on your computer, which I'm going to venture to say none of us really are, that, it's never going to be a really smooth looking ball. And the point of the hand-drawn animation, right, is to make it kind of look more organic and hand-drawn. And it's not going to be a perfect circle. So don't worry about those things. You can crank up the smoothing on the classic brush if that's what you're using, and just, try and make as circular of a ball as you can. And if not, I'm not going to like slap your hands or anything. I'm not going to be that mad. So, Eric, I'll go ahead and let's see if we can offline this a little bit later. Okay. Maybe I'll let me know if this becomes an issue. Email me before Monday or try it again tonight. And if it's still an issue tonight, take if you can record with your phone maybe and just send that in to me and show me kind of what is going on and how it's looking, and then send that through Canvas to me, and I should be able to see a little bit more of maybe what's happening. Maybe we can troubleshoot it. So, and if not, I'll help you out on Monday. Like I said, I'll be gone during the weekend. So, all right. So let me open this one right here. And how's the volume on these videos, you guys? Are you able to hear them okay? Let me know that in the chat. And this is, who is this? This is Brian. All right.
Hi, okay. So my question for this week has to do with the bouncing ball template for After Effects. So in the Canvas bouncing ball module assignment, the After Effects file from 2020, it's not compatible, or it doesn't work. I tried opening it and it said assets were locked or something. I couldn't use it. So I do have the PNG here of the ball, so I could use that if that's okay, and just do it all in this document, because you can only do it in one document anyway. So I was just wondering if we could do that in class. If not, I can just watch the video, it's fine. But just do the After Effects things separately here, or just do the After Effects bouncing ball here in this file as opposed to in the template provided.
Brian, yeah, that's perfectly fine. I the whole concept of, bringing all of them from one file into another is just like compositing, right? Like, we want to be able, I want to see that you guys can composite things inside of After Effects. I am going to be okay if you would rather do that, is just bring the PNG file into your project panel that way. And if you guys want to, I will go over the ball. I'll go over the bouncing ball, because I'm also going to go over a little bit of the animate ball and like importing that, right? So I'll kind of touch base a little bit more on the regular bouncing ball as well. And so we might not get to the 3D section of the type, but let's try and move forward with this. But yeah, that's okay, you guys. Like if for some reason it is not, you're not able to open the file, because some of these files might be slightly outdated, and so I just try and keep up with making sure they're as up to date as possible. And you know, sometimes, usually I don't have a problem with opening it, but I understand things happen, and so if you have to do that, you have to do that. I just want you guys to double check, right, that your frame rate and your that your comp settings are correct. So I want it 1920 by 1080. I want it to be 24 frames a second, unless we're doing hand drawn, right? Which we talked about that. And then I believe for that one it was like, I think we did a 2-second bounce. Yeah, it's gonna be 2 seconds long because our Adobe Animate animation of the ball was 2 seconds long as well. So if you guys need to do that and import inside, import the PNG manually, and you guys don't want to just download the template, that's okay. The reason the template is there is to just kind of have the project settings set up for you guys so that you don't have to manually do that kind of stuff. But if you're already doing that and it looks like you kind of, you're good here, Eric, right? You've got 24 frames a second on everything. It looks like you've sequenced, or you've interpreted the footage of your stuff correctly. And so yeah, you should be okay.
On canvas. So
Let me mute my mic again. Sorry, guys.
this is what I have right now. There's like a 1 frame delay, like it didn't sync properly. I did do the correct amount of drawings, 9 going down. Well, it was actually 24.
Okay, that is a weird After Effect thing that you're seeing right there, Eric. You did it correctly, and notice that you actually are on the 2-minute mark here with your, I'm sorry, let me go back from there. Right here is exactly at 2 minutes. It's at the 2-minute mark where you know your playhead just moves over to there. So on the timeline, it's in the correct spot. What you're seeing is kind of like After Effects, like auto kind of creates an extra frame at the end of your timelines for some reason. And it also, if you notice, like it goes over a couple extra frames right here. Here, let me see here. Right here with the comp, the area where it's at. Let me see. See if I can zoom. Here is some extra space. It's like an extra 2 keyframes, 1 or 2 keyframes. And so what you'll do is you'll take this little handle and you'll just manually drag it over. Whenever you hit the N, the B will always be at the beginning of your composition. For some reason, the B always works. Like if you were to bring your playhead over to the 12th frame and hit B because you only wanted to play this section of the video, it will stop. It will start directly on that 12th frame. But for some reason, it does not do that when you hit N for Nancy to do the end frame. And so you just kind of have to take that and drag that over. But if you watch the rest of the video talking about like sequencing all of your layers, right? You're going to pre-compose this, and then what you're going to do is sequence them to essentially loop, because you want to have 4 bounces. And so it looks like we're going to have to we'll talk about that a little bit more today here. But we will go to the next question. Good questions, guys, so far. You guys are asking a lot of really important stuff. So muting my mic, and I'll go to the next one.
Okay, so hello. My question's about the hand-drawn animation on Adobe Animate. So this is my animation. Looks just wrong in my opinion, so I was wondering if you had any advice on how to make this look better. Thank you.
I think you're referring to like the smoothness of the animation, right, Zoe? If that's the case, then you essentially have to, it comes down to drawing it smoothly between the transitions, and also if you wanted to add more frames, but it's just like kind of an aesthetic thing, right? It's not supposed to look perfect. It's gonna look, I will say like slightly chunky, right? It looks almost like it's not a perfect ball bounce because it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to look hand drawn. And the point of all this work that we're going to do this semester is to create a portfolio at the end of it, right? And so having that hand drawn animation in there like that just shows that you understand kind of timing in hand drawn animation with the keyframes, and it just shows an additional skill that you have with that. And so, another way to get really smooth lines is to utilize the Wacom tablets that we have at the school. I believe you can check those out as well. I don't know if you can bring them home, but I do know that you can use them at least in the lab. So if that is the case and you guys want to do that, so that you guys can, draw a little bit, you can draw more steady-handed than with the mouse, which I understand, then yeah, by all means go ahead and do that. But there's nothing wrong with that, actually, Zoe. It looked really good to me. And so yeah, good job.
Hi, Miss Makara. So, looking at these 10 principles of motion design, is this really like mostly what we're going to be doing this semester, or is there like a specific type of principle that isn't present on here but we are going to learn about? I'm just curious. Thank you.
That's a good question as well, Lee. So, that is a GIF that was made by, let me see here if I go to the home page. Is his name on it? Junior Canest, I think is how you say his name. So essentially, right, Lee, there's the 12 principles of animation that you've read about in the book. Well, what Junior did here is he combined a couple of them. I think specifically squash and stretch. No, maybe that was spacing, rhythm, eases, mass and weight, anticipation, arcs. Appeal is like if you notice here down at the bottom, appeal is like the overall look, right? But in general, these are here for you to visually see kind of like what they're talking about, right? When you watch that. So timing, spacing, and rhythm, you can see how quickly the ball's moving based on the keyframes that are on here, right? So you can see that the tighter the keyframes, the slower the movement. And the further spaced the keyframes are here, the quicker the movement, right? And so remember, these are tweening, but it's just kind of showing you an example on what your timeline really should be looking like or the easing should be looking like on the object, right? And this shows you different curves right here, right? We've been working in the graph editor, right? These are different curves that we can use to change speed and change the way things ease. This one in particular here is like going at a steady up, and then down, like kind of quickly. So if you watch these, look how this one's it slows down right there, slowing down, speeding back up as it goes up, and slowing down. And just kind of look the even of this one down here, the third one, as far as easing out of this keyframe that would be here, right? Going up to a normalized speed, kind of slowing down and then going back down. So this one's very even. This one right here is linear movement, right? There is no slowing down or speeding up. It's a constant speed. And so on and so forth for all of these GIFs, right? The cool ones down here, secondary or layered animation, right? Watching, not only is the position in the arc changing, but the square is also rotating, but then it's also adding exaggeration into it and some follow through. So you can kind of see how these collectively add on top of each other to equal something like this. It's just a visual way for you guys to understand what those principles are. And this is something that you guys have to just kind of know and just read about and understand. And so this is a really good idea to go through and look at this throughout class and just kind of remind yourself, like, what kind of things should I add to here when, you know, and we'll teach you a little bit more. Like, we'll teach you how to do essentially like emulating smears inside of After Effects. That's like a different, that'll be further along in the semester. Right now we're kind of talking about a bouncing ball, right? So we're working with arcs. We don't have the bouncing ball move down this way, but right now our whole thing is talking about acceleration and deceleration and really drilling down, working in the graph editor. But like anticipation right here, that little boop you see before it goes up, this one doesn't have the anticipation, but this first ball does. It's kind of like if you think like a runner just amping up and kind of leaning back before they take off and run full speed. So yeah, it's good to have this. You can right click and save this if you guys want to keep it. But this is a really cool visualization of the principles of animation. And we'll touch on a majority of them, yes, throughout. And we're going to do one on mass and weight. So yeah, we will go ahead and kind of when we send you guys off to do your own thing, you guys will talk more about secondary or layered animation. So let me go into the next question.
Hello, my name is Sarah. And I did originally have another question, but I felt like it wasn't really that good of a question, and I felt like it was kind of a common sense answer. I did, however, want to ask about whenever I try to open up After Effects, so if I do that now, if it's loading, I get this little pop-up here, and I'm not exactly sure how to fix it, and because of this, I'm not able to like import videos or anything like that. So if I were to try to import like one of the previous, I did a couple takes as you can see. If I try to
Okay, cool. Sarah, good question. I know you're in the chat right now. So I actually will, so a driver is something that you have to update on your GPU. The graphics processing units, when they're NVIDIA's, I'm not sure about the AMD. I don't have one of those, but you usually have to update them. You have to update your drivers and you just have to update the graphics card in general. And they put out like patches for stuff. And what you want to do is usually click, let me see, let me go over here. If you click fix here, did you try clicking fix, Sarah? Let me know in the chat. It will like try and fix this issue for you. I know there is also, let me see here. I'm going to look up if you Google this, and whenever you guys get errors, right? Errors in After Effects, Cinema 4D, when opening files, just Google what it says and then kind of read down, and you'll usually see some forums. Usually there's like Reddit forums or something like that that kind of goes over like any kind of issues. Yeah, the website can be a little confusing. I'm going to send you this real quick. I'm going to drop it in the chat. So if anyone else is having issues, you can go into the chat and just copy and paste this website. See if you can go here. And it will kind of walk you through a little bit how to update. I think there's like a video. There's a video on there, I believe, and they'll talk to you on how to update that NVIDIA GPU to fix that issue. That's happened to me before on my laptop. Let me know if it doesn't work. And you're welcome. And good question on there. Like, these are the types of, like, you guys are doing really good asking things that you're going to run into down the road, you know. So it's kind of nice having a bunch of students in class so we can go over all of this stuff. I am going to mute my mic.
Hi everyone. So my questions kind of turned into two. When I was using this, I couldn't get it to record, and I'm not sure where exactly I would like check the drivers.
All right, so this is an OBS issue, Kaylee. So failed to open the NVENC codec. Function not implemented. Please check your video drivers are up to date. Similar thing maybe. So if you do have, I believe you said you had NVIDIA. Let me hear.
Drivers. I checked for updates and stuff, and everything says that it's all updated. And I do have the Nvidia computer, so.
All right, cool. So you do have the NVIDIA graphics card. So let me show you guys something real quick. Over here on my desktop, if you have an NVIDIA one specifically, I'm not sure about AMD. There might be some kind of software that goes along with an AMD GPU as well. But right here is something called the GeForce Experience. I think that one's the one that I open. Let me just double check this here. Yeah, and I believe right up here where it says drivers, and it'll tell you if it's up to date. See, my GeForce Game Ready driver, I don't really game all that often on my computer. I use my PlayStation 5. Not to make anyone jealous, but I fought hard for that, okay? And but you'll just download it. You'll check for updates over here, and then just make sure that is up to date, and then see if you're still having issues. Same for you, Sarah. If you go in there, you might want to check as well if you do have an NVIDIA GPU. So you might want to check that as well. But if not, why don't you go ahead and that specific error, Google this. Google this part specifically and every single word. You can't usually, it sucks because you can't like highlight and copy paste. But if you just like, try and type that in, it'll usually pop up because other people have searched for it as well. And Kaylee, let me know if that's an issue as well for you. So.
Hi, I had a question about the 3D program. I was wondering if it was $16 a year or $16 a month, just because the $16 one a year wasn't working because I can't use the App Store for my laptop. But I was wondering if you can only pay like an annual fee for like only that program, or you can do monthly. I started the free trial just to wait till I get paid next week just to be able to get the full program. But the workload is pretty easy this week, it's just introducing, showing their work and stuff like that. I like looking at everyone else's work on Behance and like then them showing the two like pieces they're proud of on our discussions. I'm looking forward to seeing more of everyone's work and seeing the stuff that I put out.
All right, before I go a little further, this is our second Lee in class. I believe it's Lee, correct? And as far as Cinema 4D goes, it shouldn't have been $14. It should have been $9.99. Did anyone else have an issue with did they increase the price? because I'll be curious about that, because it should only be about $10, and it shouldn't, it sounds like you're just having an issue with like the technology login challenge, that part in particular. So let me see here. Lee, if you want to write me separately or something and we can figure that out, because I want you to be able to work in Cinema 4D, because it's just continuous after this and we're just kind of stacking upon it. So I'm going to continue the rest of your question here though. Okay, it should only be $9.99 unless you're like generally rounding up. But yeah, the student license should not be, you shouldn't be paying full price for anything like that, or monthly. It's not going to be a monthly $9.99 fee. The $9.99 covers 6 months, and then what will happen is it will renew, or it won't renew automatically. You will have to go in there and renew your student account again. So if you guys are taking more classes, more animation classes, like Casey Farina teaches multiple 3D classes, and if you're going to be in those, you just have to pay the $10 fee again. So, but it's still, then it renews for another 6 months and you just use your student account. So that is that. Let me keep playing your message here if you have any questions.
But that's the only question I really had, just because it was something that I didn't know if that was the only option. I would say something that I struggled with this week was just getting the 3D animation studio up. Everything else was pretty easy. I've used Behance before, so that's just, something that's not really, I guess, new to me. It's something I'm used to, but I'm looking forward to doing it, as well as like the technology challenge. That was only difficult because of the LinkedIn, just because I felt like awkward marketizing myself on that, even though that's what you're supposed to do. That's what it's for. I think I just need to get used to that.
Okay, I'm actually happy that I continued watching the rest of the video, because I was going to stop a little bit, because I thought you were I first of all, everyone's work that you guys posted in Slack looked very nice. Like, yeah, you're not wrong, Lee. They definitely mentioned that everyone did a really good job, and I agree with that. Now, LinkedIn Learning, again, LinkedIn Learning and LinkedIn, the social side where you promote yourself and that's where you look for jobs. They are two separate entities, okay? They're linked in a way, like they're on the umbrella is LinkedIn, right? But the sister company to it is LinkedIn Learning. And so if you're having to do that, that's not the right one that you're on. The LinkedIn Learning is not promoting yourself or doing any of that. It's just like tutorial videos and classes essentially that you can take online and use that. Now it's not, I believe they're going to phase it out next year or the year after, but I can't be positive about that. So definitely make sure that you're on LinkedIn Learning. So I would go through that again and try that part of the technology challenge again. And anyone else who's had that issue, try the same thing. So next here we have Nolan. I'm going to pause my mic.
So my question for this week would be, which programs are we going to be using the most from the downloads that we did for the technology challenge? Because I know there was a lot of them, but I'm curious which ones we're going to be using the most out of all of them.
All of them. No, I'm just kidding. We'll use the most Cinema 4D and After Effects, and then we'll also be using Adobe Illustrator in there. The Adobe Animate, really, that was our only hand-drawn thing that we're really going to do in the class. That doesn't mean that you can't add like possibly hand-drawn elements later on down the road when we do our final creative project, which I'll talk more about. And you can absolutely add some hand-drawn animation in there if you want more practice using Adobe Animate. But really, we work in this class specifically, we work the most with After Effects and Cinema 4D. I'd say like 40% of the class is going to be Cinema 4D, and 60% is going to be in After Effects. And I say that, right, because we compose everything in we composite everything into After Effects. So that, those are the ones that we're going to use the most frequently, that you're going to probably open on a weekly, like a daily basis in class. The other thing is Illustrator. So if you want to familiarize yourself a little bit more with that before we get to those lessons, you're more than welcome to. In fact, if you go on to LinkedIn Learning, I'm sure you can type in something about like Illustrator, or Adobe Illustrator, go on YouTube and search some stuff, and you guys can find out a little bit more about that if you're not comfortable in it. We will talk a little bit kind of about navigating in that a little later when we create like this 2D robot arm. But in general, that we'll kind of move quickly into that one, and then you'll utilize Illustrator throughout the rest of the class as well. We just won't open it necessarily and create all the assets in class. I'll have them pre-prepared. So but yeah, good question. All right, Maisie, I'm gonna mute my mic again. Just want to warn you guys.
So I keep answering my own questions every time I ask a question. I was having trouble exporting this without the white background, and then I saw this when I was asking my question. So when I was asking my this when I was asking my question. So let me see if that fixes it. Okay. Oh, yep, there they are.
Well, Maisie, good job. You answered your own question. That kind of happens a lot. Oh, I will answer my own questions sometimes too. So don't feel bad. In fact, it was really good. You kind of going through it and keeping the camera on, because this way other students can watch kind of what you're doing, because yes, you did that correctly. You can also just import the file, the specific FLA file, into After Effects. I know that in the one video that Casey, I believe he exports out the PNGs, which is also fine. But yeah, you can just usually just draw that or drag that animate file into the project panel inside of After Effects. But yeah, and then it should have that at that point, no background. I do not believe it has a background at that point. And if not, the ignore background box is what you check. So good job there. Let me see. Next. All right, Amaya.
For this project, everything has been going pretty smoothly, surprisingly, since this is one of my first animation classes, or just more things in the computer in general. The programs are really unique, just a tad difficult, but throughout the semester, I hope to gain more of an understanding of just basically everything. So I don't really just big props to people who actually work with this stuff professionally, because it is very time consuming and it takes a lot of skill and effort to complete this in doing so. The question I have, it's not about the project, it's more about the industry. excuse me, my question is how long you have to work with a certain program before you are able to go into it for a job, if that makes sense. Like if you're working with a certain program and you want to do a job that involves a certain program, would you need a certification or something? That's one of my questions.
That is a great question. First of all, I want to address about what you said. Props to people who do this for a living. Yeah, it takes in general, for instance, I'll give you this timeline for a normal animated video at my job. If we're doing a 2 to 3 minute animated infographic video without characters, just pretty much icons, right? Iconography and stuff. Those can take upwards of 8 weeks. Within that 8 weeks, though, you have to think about feedback that you're getting from the client, edits that you're doing to that, and so it's a lot of back and forth. We also factor into that like meetings and stuff that we have, and storyboarding times, and whatnot. And so that 80 hours, right, that's also buffered out. It kind of depends on how extensive the video is going to be. We have meetings regarding that, but yeah, it takes a long time. You won't spend that full 80 hours animating, right? But I mean, a solid week at least on videos to make them, a full 40-hour work week, like a full entire work week to do a really good 2 to 3 minute animated video is in general how long it takes. So it is very tedious and it is time consuming, and you find that you're there and you have to be kind of detail oriented and be patient with yourself. That's the biggest thing. And be patient with not getting things correct right away, because you're always going to have feedback. No matter how good you think it looks, the client might disagree. And I'm not saying that's always right, but wink, wink. No, I'm just kidding. But the client is paying for the video, and so they have the right to decide kind of what things are in there. And so you might go back and forth a little bit, but yeah, it takes a long time, and you don't have to your question, right, to the point of the question, it's not a specific amount of time that you have to put into a program in order to get a job doing that kind of stuff. You have to just be able to show with a reel, right? We'll talk more about a reel at the end of the semester, but essentially a reel is where you take all of your animated videos, or the ones that you've done the best on, right, and you condense them down into one video that you show potential employers. And that video is supposed to be your best work that displays that you have the ability to animate different things and animate well. And so it's more about what you can do and not necessarily how long you've been doing it, right? Because there are some people who haven't done it for a long time and are amazing at it because they just pick it up really well, and they've just got time during the day to spend doing that. And that's why I suggest really, putting in as much time and trying to make these videos as good as you can, right? Because you don't want to have to work on them another 6 months down the road where you're, or a year down the road when you're in your portfolio class trying to put everything together and you're like, oh gosh, I need to change this or do that. Try your best now. That way you have less to do later. And yeah, you can get a job. I got a job right out of college. I just hit the ground running and just found people to talk to, and then it led me to teaching here part-time, which I really enjoy doing because you guys ask questions like these and I can give you actual insight to it. So just do the best that you can throughout the class. Try and get some good work in here, and just really being hyper kind of focusing in on that kind of stuff will help. So good question there, Amaya. Your kid brain exploded. That's funny, Sarah. Yes. It feels very daunting when you have a really long animation. That's why those animators for like Disney and stuff, I mean, that's why it takes so long to make films, right? And you got to think, the more tedious the animation, right? So like hand drawn is going to take quite a bit longer. Stop motion is going to take a very long time to do because, you know, it's a different type of animation. We don't do that in this class. I think stop motion is amazing, but for instance, like the Pinocchio film that Guillermo del Toro just recently did. Oh my gosh, my brain. We're over 1,000 animators that worked on that stop motion film. Over 1,000. That is a lot of animators, and that's a lot of hours put into, I think it was like maybe 2 hours, maybe. That's why you see a lot of animated videos and movies are only like an hour and a half, right? They're not as long as a lot as others because of how long it actually takes. And it kind of puts in your mind how long it takes to do just a 10-minute animation. You know, and that's if people have that kind of attention span, because a lot of the times you'll be creating things that are supposed to be fast. Like a lot of there's a lot of animation jobs in marketing and commercial animation. Like, you know, all of the commercials that you watch on TV have animation in them. A majority of them do have some kind of text animation or something like that. And so you'll find a lot of jobs in that area, and they're more, I would say, more stable jobs in that area, in that specific like niche of animation versus animating for film and video. But you know, you can still absolutely do that kind of stuff. You just got to work hard at it. So we'll get to this question now from Janelle.
Hello. So I've only gotten through the After Effects tutorial so far. I haven't really run into too many difficulties. I think the most challenging thing for me was getting the curve correct to make the ball bounce correctly. I just kind of had to play with it for a little while, so I don't know if there was an easier way to do that. But yeah, other than that, I think so far I'm doing good. So yeah, thank you. Hello. So I've only gotten through.
Let me actually pause this real quick. Yeah, Janelle, good job. Your curve is not quite correct yet, and I'll go over that here in just a little bit once I'm done. But I didn't. There's a lot of you guys in this class, and so going over all these questions, I'm gonna have to keep them a little bit shorter moving forward. But yeah, the curve, in general, good job. We'll just have to adjust this curve, right? It needs to be a steep slope, and it needs to be kind of a sharp V here, right? So what you're gonna do is you're going to take this keyframe in the middle, and you are going to break the Bezier handles, right? And then make it almost look like a W. It's almost gonna look like or two halves of a skate pipe, just kind of cut. You know, I'll show you guys. So, but yeah, let's move on to the next one. Jessica.
Hi. Okay, say we wanted to pursue animation as a career, right? Would we still be using programs like the ones we're using now in class, like Cinema 4D and the Adobe ones? Or would it be different since what we're using, Cinema 4D, is like a 6-month license? Hi. Okay, say we wanted to pursue animation as a career. Right?
Yeah, you will use these. I use After Effects and I use all the Adobe applications every single day in my job. So yeah, these will be what you use. Cinema 4D is industry standard for at least commercial purposes. I'm not sure whether companies, like if large production studios and stuff are using Cinema 4D for 3D animated videos, they usually use Autodesk. But the key thing here, right, is within 3D programs, whether it's in Autodesk like 3ds Max, or whether it's Cinema 4D, or whether it's Blender, which is a free open source 3D animation program, they all have a similar layout. And so you if you have the concepts and kind of know what you're doing, you can navigate around them. If you have to open it up, there have been times where I've had clients ask me to use their programming and they use different programming, right? And so you just kind of have to learn to navigate it as quickly as possible and figure certain things out. But in general, what we use in class, there's a reason we have these in class, and that is because they are industry standard programs. They are what you will use when you go out and get a job. There is no equivalent animation program right now to After Effects. After Effects is the only one that really does that and has that robust type of coding and system built into it. The problem is that like we should really have a rehaul of the entire software. But the problem is like a house of cards is how Dr. Farina describes it. It's kind of like if we were to try and fix Microsoft or Windows right now, like it would just destroy everything and then the world would fall to pieces, right? Like it has to build on top of each other. And unfortunately, I think it would take a lot to build out a new program that's as robust as After Effects. But you never know, that might change in 5 years. And then the point of being in this field, right, is staying relevant, and staying updated on kind of what's going on in the field. And so that's why it's important to just, build yourself a community of motionographers and animators, illustrators, graphic designers, and things like that. And so you guys can kind of stay on top of the trends or ahead of the trends, right? Cool. All right. And Angelina, we got some music here. That brings up a good point. Although I love music and I wish I could play playlists for you guys in the background, it can get copyright stricken. The videos can. So, as long as it's not like a copyright, I hope this doesn't get struck at this point. That would suck. And if it does, you guys all have to let me know right away. But I'm gonna play this. We'll see kind of what happens. I'll answer the question right away. But yeah, if we can avoid just kind of music in the background on these videos, that'd be just more ideal moving ahead for YouTube, not for me. I like the music personally, but I don't make the rules. So let me play this.
Okay. Hello. I just thought I would do, I don't really have many questions, so I'm doing the participation for this class. I'd say my only real question that I have is about the Adobe Creative Cloud, because I have my personal account that I use. So I was just wondering if that was okay, if I can just use my personal account, or if I had to use the student MEID account. I just like having it in here because eventually I would like to go in and put my stuff in like a portfolio that I work on. I feel like it would just be easier if I did it in here. My other question would be, I am just wondering, like, are we going to be learning a lot more in depth about like After Effects, Animate, and all these things? And is it...
Well, we already spoke on a couple people, had that question. So we've already spoken on what programs we're going to be using. But as far as using your own personal Adobe Creative Cloud, you can use that if you want to. I wouldn't want to have to pay for it and get it for free because the school licensing, you get it for free. So you might as well benefit on that because you get all the stuff with it. Unless you, for some reason, are getting like a really stellar discount. But the nice thing, right, is that you can just render everything out and just upload it manually to your Behance if you want. I understand the concern and frustration there. So if you want to, you're more than welcome to. But if you get it for free, why not use it, and save some money just while you're in school and just, have a little extra, like a few extra steps to have to update or upload things. So I will continue playing.
It's gonna be kind of like the same style of like we do like a lecture online, and those videos kind of help show us everything. And then the Cinema 4D, it costs $9.99, but it says for like it's good for 6 months, and then it'll charge you like the $600 that it cost. So I was just wondering, like, will we be able to cancel that, or do we need it? Because we're gonna need this software probably.
It shouldn't auto renew, but it will tell you like your license is expired, and then you'll just renew it the same way for the other classes. So
For other semesters and other classes and stuff. I know we need to have like questions and stuff for this, but I don't really have that many questions. I'd say this week went well with having to have all of my software downloaded, so that was really good. I did get an external hard drive to try and help combat like any storage issues that I have on my computer, because right now so I don't have that much space left, so
yeah, use up that external hard drive. You can always reformat and wipe things off and move things around, so you might as well just use your external hard drive and not use up the space on your actual PC or your laptop. So yeah, we're almost through them, you guys. Juliana.
Okay. I feel like the video tutorials helped a lot during doing these. I've only done the first two, the one in After Effects and the one on Cinema 4D. I haven't done the third one yet. When I was in After Effects, I would accidentally like double click something. Oops, not that one. Oh, something like that, and then I couldn't figure out how to like get away from it. I have like since then realized I was just opening up different little things. In Cinema 4D, this part I had a hard time seeing all of it. It wasn't until like I discovered I could move it around with this hand, because I was like, how like this section would be all I saw for a while, and I didn't understand how I could like move down to see it, until I realized I could like click and drag with this hand. And I also took me a while to figure out how to like click and hold to be able to do that. I feel like these features over here, like the pop out, would be something that like other people would want to know if they also have small.
Yeah, good tips there. Yeah, if you guys have a small, sometimes I don't think about screen real estate, right? Because I work on a computer with 2 screens. And so, yes, when it comes to screen real estate, maybe popping that out is a better idea. Also, don't forget that when you're inside of both the dope sheet view and the F-curve view inside of Cinema 4D, you just hit H when you're inside of there, and it recenters and resizes that for you, so you see the entire thing. But other than that, yeah, good job, and way to see that you weren't viewing. It's basically essentially what you're doing is you're like focusing in on the object inside of After Effects is what happened when you double click that, versus like actually seeing what's in the composition. And so if that ever happens, you did the right thing. Just up at the top, you see the tab and you just close it out, or you just go over to the composition tab And yeah, that's how you do that. Good job. And let's see, Megan. Mute this.
Hey guys, so I just want to ask, what are 3 of the best features that we'll be using on Cinema 4D? Also, what are the main applications we'll be using throughout the semester? Okay, thank you.
Everyone's curious about that. Yeah, Cinema 4D, After Effects, main ones that we're going to use. And the main features of Cinema 4D, well, we're going to do some, we're going to create like an Eve, you know, from like Wall-E, like creating essentially like an Eve robot animation. So we're going to do that. And then, you know, we can talk about maybe some more effects, and we're going to be using some MoGraph stuff a little bit later. So we kind of just dabble around in there and kind of give you a general overview on how to do things. If you want to do things more detailed in there, I suggest taking some other 3D classes that just focus specifically on 3D work. And so you guys can kind of see what you'll do in those classes. But here we really want to work on just kind of the basics of animation and working inside of After Effects and Cinema 4D. So if you want to learn more like modeling things and effects, you'll just have to take a class that just focuses specifically on that, which we offer here at GCC. So yeah, and that's good questions there. Sarah said in the chat, she says she used her own personal external. Yes, you can use your own personal external hard drive. You should always have your own personal external hard drive, just no dongles, right? No thumb drives. And then 1 terabyte is more than enough for right now. If you were filming and had footage, you would need more, but at this moment you do not. So final question goes to Nick.
I am Nick Zintek, another fellow student of this very class. Here is my question for the week. It is a technical question. Throughout the video, I saw that you were using the brush tools, and you kept switching back and forth. That is not the question. My question is, how can I have the ability to use the fluid brush tool as you were able to? I am unable to. As you can see, it is grayed out right there. It gives me the shortcut key.
Yeah, good question, Nick. Yep. That is the GPU render. That is a GPU brush or the fluid brush. And only if your GPU really works with it will it work. You don't have to use it though. You can. I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was going back and forth. That's probably why you guys asked that, which one I was choosing. And so you can continue doing it with just a regular brush. You guys don't actually have to have the fluid brush. It just happens to work with my computer. And if it doesn't work with yours, that's not a problem. But yeah, good questions, you guys. Way to go. Way to ask some solid stuff for everyone else to see. Some guys had similar questions, and yeah, you guys are on track with these here. So let's jump right into, because it's almost 7:30. We only got an hour. I'm gonna jump back into the ball. A couple things with the bouncing ball in After Effects. First of all, I am going to open up this is the one that I created last in the class, right? Let me see here. This is the one I can positive. All right, so let's say we're going to move this over to the side. I'm going to hit P, and I'm going to just move the X position of it. And just so we know it's there, I am going to hide that layer, right? So I don't have to see it while I'm working. And then I'm actually gonna, this is like a really insanely blue solid color, and it's driving me insane. So I'm gonna change that real quick here. If you ever want to change like solid settings, right? Or like your background essentially, you'll just go into layer and solid settings, or you can hit the shortcut Control-Shift-Y. And so it brings me to that. I'm just going to kind of desaturate it, right? Because it's really, really saturated. Kind of make it like a gray blue. I think that'll look a little bit nicer there, a little easier to read the actual. Yeah, that's not so bad. And you know, please apply design. I'm gonna mute my computer here, but please apply design, essentially like color theory and stuff to your artwork, right? We know, the color wheel, at least at this point. It is a design class, so let's try and work within those parameters. But let's create a ball here. I will bring in, let me bring in the one. Not there, templates, the bouncing ball. I'm going to copy this, right? Don't forget to, if you ever move your files, right, to save with the dependencies or with all the stuff that comes with it. But I'm just going to paste that file right into here, and then I'm going to drag it into After Effects. And so we have our PNG ball. I'm going to bring that down to my timeline, and I'm going to make sure that I'm over here on the 0 time code, right? It says 0 there, right at the front of my timeline. And we're gonna animate just the Y position, right? Because that bouncing ball just goes up and down. It's the same that we're doing with all the other 3 ones. So I'm going to hit P on my keyboard to bring up that position. Actually, I am going to shut off my camera so that you guys can see the entire, I want you guys to see all of the software. And since I have limited real estate, I'm going to shut this off so you guys can see and I don't block anything out, okay? But I am still here. Let me see real quick. I believe that worked. No, not that one. Logitech right there. Okay. There we go. I am gone. Okay, moving forward with this. All right. So we've got the ball there. We brought up the P parameter for position, and we're going to separate the dimensions. Remember to do that right away. And then the other thing we want to do is, you notice that right here, the anchor point is in the middle, but we want to animate from essentially like the bottom part. And in fact, here's a cool thing you guys might want to know how to do, right? So there's a lot of space in between the ball, and essentially these are layer guides, right? These don't show up in renders. These are just there for us to know how big that layer is, right? So there's a lot of space kind of happening right here. So you can either take this anchor point and just drag it down to the bottom of the ball, or if you want this space to be much smaller, to kind of fit the ball a little bit more, you can do the following right here. There is a button called the region of interest, and you'll click to reset it. But what you do is you will click this, right, and then you will redraw a box, and it'll make kind of everything disappear. You can hold down shift to make it perfect, and redraw a box around the image. And then what you do is you come up here, and I believe it is under edit or it's either under edit, composition, or under layer, I believe. Watch, I'll be wrong, but let's try composition. Yes. Okay. Crop. You're going to want to crop comp to region of interest. And what that does is it essentially changes your the size of the actual composition that your, I think the ball, let me actually see if I did that right, because yeah. That is if this is pre-composed. It only works if it's pre-composed, right? Because what's happening here is it's changing the size of my composition entirely, and I don't want that. So you would want to pre-compose the ball and then go through those steps in order to do that. For right now, I'm just going to hit Y and click and shift drag this down to the bottom of the ball. And then I am going to keyframe just the Y position. I'm going to hit U, select the layer and hit U to just bring up that Y keyframe. And I am going to bring this up, right, because I want it to start right there. And then I want it to land on the ground. I'm going to take my playhead and I'm going to scrub over to the first second on our timeline. And then I'm going to bring that ball right back down to where the floor essentially would be, right? Actually, let me bring it up a little bit. I like even numbers, so sometimes I like to just type my values in because it makes it easier for me to remember. So like this one's so close to 350, I'll put it there. And that one was so close to 800 that I just put it at 800. And then what you want to do is you want to come to this, the number 2 second on the keyframe or on the timeline, and you're gonna make sure your playhead's there, but you can drag and select that first keyframe, and you hit Control C, Control V, and that copies just that keyframe to the timeline there. Again, remember what I said earlier is if you hit the N, it notice that there's still 2 frames there. Add an extra frame. You'll just click this and drag it in there, and then it just kind of eliminates that extra frame there for you. But that sometimes can affect your render. So if you're having like an issue or glitch at the render and you notice that happens, just bring that back to where it initially was, and you should be okay. But if I hit play, ball goes down, ball goes up, ball goes down, ball goes up. All right, now, as we've been talking about the last few classes, that doesn't look good, right? There's no deceleration or acceleration. And so I am going to select this Y position. You can either click there, you can drag and select all of the keyframes. And I'm going to click on the graph editor. And obviously this is these are linear keyframes, right? It's a single straight line up and a single straight line down. So we want to make sure we select all of those keyframes. You can either, again, click and drag, or you can just hit the Y parameter right there. And then you're going to come down here and you're going to click Easy Ease. And so once I hit that, you're going to see it's going to smooth out that's a nice smooth curve. And if I play it, that's okay, but it's slowly going up and it's slowly coming back. It's going down slow and it's coming back up slowly. And that's not what we want, right? We want to add acceleration and deceleration into here. So what we need to do, and this is what I was talking about with one of your videos, is you're going to take this middle keyframe where the ball hits the ground. You're going to click and drag and you're going to select it. And then you want to break these Bezier handles because you want to make a dramatic curve, right? We want it to go fast going up or fast going down and kind of slower going up. So I'm going to take that, and now all you got to do is click and drag and just kind of bring that down. And then I'm going to take this, all I did there on accident was clicked off of the layer, so it didn't show the keyframes. I'm going to click and drag and grab that keyframe, and then I'm going to actually do it. I'm going to take that Bezier handle and I can bring it in that way, right? This is going to be a much more dramatic acceleration down. Like it's going super fast down and then going to hit. Watch, if I play it right now, the reason it looks funny is because of right here, right? We haven't done this side yet. But it's like all of a sudden a really fast slam down. So I don't really like that so much. I'm going to smooth that out just a tad and probably bring it right to here first. And then we'll see what it looks like. I'm going to reselect this middle keyframe and I'm going to drag this down as well, about evenly, right? We want it to be even. And then I believe this is even as well. It looks like an even curve to me. And then we'll see, boom, up, down, up. And so this is what you want you want this speeding up and then going down really quick, right? Or it's speeding into the ground. Remember, it's opposite. The motion in the window is going to be opposite of what you're seeing here, right? Because essentially, if you were to take this curve and invert it, it's going to look like a bounce, right? So that is how you do the 2D bounce. And then if you wanted to, remember the tilde key allows you to full frame any of these panels that you want. But yeah, I'm going to Control S to save that. And then you've got your After Effects bouncing ball. Now, one thing you can do to really sell the motion a little bit further, and actually you can add this to your easing type right, with the good, better, best, is we can add a blur onto this. And so how do we do that? This button right here, there's a couple ways to do it, but we're going to do it this way. This button right here enables motion blur. This one right here with the 3 circles. And so you have to make sure that that is enabled first. So you're going to click that, and things are enabled in After Effects, they turn blue. And then we are going to want to select the layer that we want to add the blur to, and then we're going to click this little box right here. Right, this one specifically right here will enable the motion blur. This one right here turns an object into a three-dimensional object. This one right here, I think it has to do with the, what is that, if I hover over it, adjustment layer effects. But we'll click that. So we've turned it on here. We've turned it on here on our layer, and then we're going to, and you notice there's blur, like a natural blur happening, like especially right, you can see it if you pause it, especially if I bring this, if I take my timeline and my playhead and I scrub through, you can really see that blur effect happening. And so adding blur to your motion will just sell it even further that it's an actual bouncy ball. Okay, now I want to, yeah, that looks good. And then you will add the floor into there, right? So we'll quickly do that here. I am going to, actually, I don't make a shape. What you're going to want to do is we want to make an entire layer. So we're going to go to new and solid. And we're going to take this color that we made the background, right? And we're going to make the floor slightly darker, a little more saturated. I'm going to bring it down here. And then I'm going to take, here's a good tip, is whenever you're kind of picking a color palette, right, moving around here in the same color tone, right, is fine. But if you take this and you just adjust the hue slightly, right, it adds just a little bit more of a visual interest. This is something designers kind of do. It's the added step, the miracle step that I like to call it, that you add in here, that kind of gives it a little bit more visual interest, right? Like I can bring it either a deeper blue or I want it to be kind of a lighter blue, right? So I want a little deeper, more on the indigo side. I'm probably going to bring it right to there. That's a good color. I will name this, rename your layer floor. And drag it to the bottom. Not underneath the background, right? This is not renamed, so I'll rename this BG. Sometimes I just do BG for background, shorthand. That's my technique. And so the floor all of a sudden covers everything up, right? We do not want that. And so what we're going to do is we're going to add a layer mask to this. Actually, in a second, the first thing we're going to do is hit P on the keyboard to bring down the position, and we're going to drop this Y position kind of to where the ball is hitting the ground. So slightly bring that back up for a little bit. Actually, you can see kind of the ghosting, right? The blur. It should look like it's going to hit right there. Yeah. Let me drop it down just slightly. Oh, not that. Play it. Yeah, that looks good to me. All right, and so now we are going to add that mask. This masking is something that's a term you'll use using Illustrator. You can mask things in Photoshop. You can mask things in Premiere Pro. You do a lot of masking as well inside of After Effects. And so essentially what it is it's like taking a piece of paper, right, and cutting a section of it out, or like just cropping, like essentially, right? And you can do this though, you can customize shapes of masks. So for an example, right, customizing the shapes, if I go up here to my shape tool, and let's say I want to have a mask that is like a star. I think that is the option there. One of them is a star. I select that, and then I make sure that my layer that I want to mask is selected. So I want to make sure that the floor is selected. And then I don't want to draw. You want to make sure that the floor is selected here, and then you want to make sure that up at the top you have your shape tool selected. And then the other thing you want to make sure, so shape tool here, is that this one right here is not selected, that there is a blue selection around this area. And what does that mean? That is the masking tool. This here means you're going to draw shape with that shape tool, and this here means that you're going to draw a mask with the shape tool. So if you go to draw something and you're like, oh, what is happening here? You went to draw a shape, then it's on the mask tool, and usually it saves what your last selection was. So you just kind of want to make sure you're doing that. And so I'm on the mask, and then if I just hold down shift and I click and I drag, it makes a star shape. So then I have a star shape mask. For this example, I want a custom shape. I don't want any of these specific shapes that are up here. And so I'm going to make sure my layer is selected. I hit V for the selection tool, and I'm going to go up here to the pen tool, and I'm going to select the pen tool right here. You can also press G. G as in girl or goalie if you want to select the pen tool. And then I'm going to just kind of click and draw the mask shape that I want. And so I kind of want it to go in like an upside down, I believe it's like a trapezoid. Oh, if you hold down shift, it will draw straight lines. So just remember that. There we go. That works. I'm going to click V to grab the selection tool again, and then I'm just going to adjust these. You can just drag and select vertexes. That's what these are called. These little points right here, these are vertexes. You get those when drawing in Illustrator as well. But these are customizable, and when they're blank, they're not selected. So you want to make sure that, like, if you want to select more than one, you click and drag. If you want to select all of them, you just click and drag all over it. But yeah, this shape looks pretty decent to me. Maybe what I will do is notice I clicked off of the shape, and so it gave me the shape layer guides, right? In order to just select back to the, you can either click on that keyframe, or you can just come down here and select the mask down on the layer. Usually this will pop up right away, and if not, just hit the M for Mary, hit the M button, and it'll bring up your mask inside that layer. But you're going to drop down, and then you hit the mask path, and that will allow you to play with the, like, customize the path of that mask specifically. Another thing you can do, right, is if you know you have a lot of details in a layer, you can just come up here. Like, let's say my layer's all furled up, but I want to access that, right? If I just come up to the search bar and I type in path, it will automatically bring up anything that has a path there, and so that I can click on it that way. This is cool looking, right? But I don't want it to have rigid edges. I want to soften it. I don't want it to be as prominent. And so I'm going to come down here, and then I'm just going to adjust the feather on the mask. So I'm just going to crank that value up. And notice that it is going to, it still has the definition right here, right? Because if I were to take these vertexes and move them down, you see that it's going to soften that edge too. But I don't want that. I want that to kind of look like the floor. And so actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these and kind of slightly hold down shift and move them up, so it doesn't go all the way off screen. And I like that. I think that looks good. And then I'm just going to hit play. Boom. And I am actually going to select the floor and hit P again, because I'm going to move this over slightly. And there we go. And so if I go back over to the 3D layer and I click on that, we have, let me just adjust the size. Let me adjust this over here. We have the bouncing balls. They're bouncing at the exact same time. They're have a similar gravity that's happening upon the ball. You know, and they're but most importantly, like, they're at the same frame rate. you know, and that's why the timing is so important, is because everything happens at the same time. All of these 3 animations that you're doing are all 2 seconds long. On that note, let's talk about the Adobe Animate, because we're having issues. People are having issues with that. So I'm just going to come up here real quick. And I'm going to open up the Adobe Animate file. I never saved the one prior, I don't believe. Let me just double check. Let me double check that real quick. That's the PNG sequence. Templates. Maybe I did save it. Oh, good for me if I did. Skip this. Ah! Haha! I have it. Okay. So, let me just play this and make sure it loops. Let me adjust that playback area to the 24th frame. All right. Let me just count down here, because it looks like I might be off a frame, right? So I've got 1, and then period in the comma, go back and forth. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 going down, 7, 8, 9 going down. Remember, 9 down, 6 on the ground, like in the same similar position, just kind of squashing, and then 9 up. So there was 9, 10, 11. Okay, hold on. I'm just going to recount. So that's 9, and then we have 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the same position. That is the problem. So let me see if I can take this. Let me see if I can select these and shift them over a keyframe. And it worked. So this one, right, we want to add a new keyframe in there. We're going to insert a blank keyframe. And that is where I am going to essentially, let me select the same brush settings. I think it was, I will select the regular brush because of that. And I will go over, make sure my onion skinning is on, right? I'm going to go here and I'm just going to draw, I think that commas back, forward, forward, back, back. Okay, one more on the ground. That's what I need. So I'm going to draw that circle there. And then, so now I should have 6. So let me just count this again. And this one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the ground. And then I'll turn the onion skinning off so you can see. And then I should have 9 going back up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now I have to draw 2 more, which I'm going to, that's at the top. This one I want to drag up there because I want that one at the top. In fact, I want to drag this one over there. And then I'm going to insert 2 frames, I think, in between. All I'm doing here is I'm just shifting the keyframe over, right? And I want to make sure, right, because now I have 2 empty frames here. I want to insert blank keyframes. So I'm going to click on that keyframe, hit insert a blank one. I want to click on this one again, right click, insert a blank keyframe, because I need 2 blank keyframes there. And so then I'm going to see that I'm going to turn my onion skinning back on. This one is atrocious, but okay, we're getting there, right? So that's the last one right up here is the last one that we drew. I'm going to hit period to go up 1. And then I'm going to, this one right here shows the next one. I believe that's going to be drawn. So I'm going to draw this one. It's getting tighter. Go ahead 1. The onion skinning is throwing my brain off right now. These ones are too close together, I think. So I'm going to go to this one. I'm going to undo that one. Go back again. I'm going to kind of draw it just slightly above here. Oh, no, let's not do that. In fact, what I'll do is I'll come over here to my erase tool and I'll just kind of erase this section to make it a little bit more... there we go. It's really bad there. But, you know, the mouse. Okay, so then the next one, I'm going to go back and select my brush tool, draw that circle again, go to the next one. I'm going to turn that onion skinning back on. Okay. B, brush tool. I want to draw it in between here. That's what I want to do. So I'm going to draw this one. And then I'm going to hit the period, and I'm going to draw the next one right up here. There we go. There we go. Okay. So if I play this now, it should have all the keyframes. Squash back up. Squash back up. There's a little hitch here because my guide doesn't go all the way. But, right, we don't want to bring that guide into After Effects, so I'm just going to shy that layer and hide it. The onion skinning shouldn't show up, but I'm going to hit Control S to save. I'm going to play it again. Enter. Squash back up. Back up. I think one of my frames is kind of funny right there. There might be some kind of... Yeah, I'm not sure if I added a texture or what I did to this one. But whatever. Okay. You know, you guys will take more time on that. I'm not going to at the moment because I want to show you guys kind of how to import this. So let's import the file directly into After Effects. So let's see. We're going to go back to After Effects here. I'm going to open this back up. I'm going to come into my layer. I'm going to, before I import it, right, let's clean this up a little bit. So I'm going to add a folder. Add a folder. This is also add a composition. I'm going to add a folder there, and I'm going to name that folder Assets. And then I'm going to drag these into that Assets folder. It shouldn't unlink them. It will not unlink them from your project because you're just dragging it. You're just cleaning up the project panel. If you were to drag the source file and move that, that is when you get the issue of the missing file. So I'm going to go over I'm going to select that Assets folder, and I'm going to hit Control I, which is going to bring up the import window. And I'm going to navigate to that. So it's on my desktop. It's under GCC Art 184, Bouncing Ball. I believe I have it under Templates, bouncing-ball.fla. Now it's going to import as a composition with retain layer sizes. That's a big one, right? Because we don't want it skewing the layers to fit into this image. So we're going to hit Import. And it's going to bring that in here. Save imported file to. I'm not sure if this is, I don't know why this is happening, but it's asking me where it wants me to save that imported file. So I'm actually going to change that location. I don't want it in the templates one. I want it outside of that, just kind of in the bouncing ball, because initially, right, that is where, if I go into the bouncing ball folder, that is where my After Effects one is and the ball itself. So I just want to, for consistency's sake, going to leave it in there. I'm going to hit Select Folder and Import Audio if present, which there is none, so it won't worry about that. And I'll hit OK. And notice what it does is it actually creates a new composition with that bouncing ball and with the 2D hand-drawn one. It also creates a folder, right? So if we go kind of explore a little bit more into there and we open up that folder, it brought each layer in as a .w or .sw. Let me slow down. A .swf file. This is just showing that it is the layers. It just brought in every layer separately into there. Leave it in there like that, right? Because that's how I'm going to drag this onto, actually, I'm not going to drag it on the timeline like that. Yeah, no, I will. I'll drag it on the timeline like that. It also created the composition right there. So if you were just to open up the composition, double click it, it's got all of that on. All the guides are still turned on too, right? And I don't want that. So I can just uncheck these, like hide these layers, right? The test guides. And I've got the bouncing ball. Notice here that it is 2 seconds long, my composition. If I hit Control K, as in kite, it brings up my composition settings. And it's 2 seconds, 12 frames a second, but 1920, 1080. That's what we're looking for. So I'm going to hit OK. And I am actually going to just bring the comp in, right? Because I actually don't want to bring this separate file in. Best practices. Let's use the pre-comp that it made. So I'm going to take this folder that it has all that, and I'm going to drop it into the assets folder and just kind of hide that. And then I'm going to take this bouncing ball and I'm going to bring it down in to my composition. And I am going to move it. I'm going to hit P and I'm going to bring that over to the side here. And I'm going to play it. Oh no, it's not the same timing, right? It looks bad. It looks bad because I drew it bad, but it's not the same timing. You know, I didn't take time on it, so obviously it's a little more glitchy. But there's something wrong with that, right? First of all, let's take the composition, move that over one, and then I'm going to hit that again. Perfect. And then I play. Looks good. Let's say I wanted to trim off all this area right here, all this excess that we're not looking at, right? We don't want that here anymore. I'm going to right click up here on this part of the timeline, and then I'm going to hit trim comp to layer, or trim comp to work area. And all that does is it just trims it down to a perfect 2 minutes. 2 seconds. I apologize. Control save. And great, that's fine. Well, the problem here is that our footage is at 12 frames a second up at the top, but we're working in a 24 frame a second comp. So we have to interpret this footage, right? We have to interpret what we just did. And so we're going to right click there. Because it is a composition, you can interpret footage on a composition. So I'm going to let's go back to the original timeline. Actually, we'll have to do there. I'm going to go into the assets folder and go to that 2D ball bounce, right? And I'm going to find the layer that we're using. In fact, just because we're doing it for this, I'm going to select all of the layers. Let's interpret them all, even though we're not looking at them. I'm going to right click on select all of them, right click over here. Maybe not. Maybe it won't let me do that at once. Okay, so you have to do it one at a time. That sucks. Sorry, guys. But go to interpret footage in main. Make sure you change this right here to 24 frames a second. What is that going to do? It is going to shorten your layer. It's going to shorten it to a 1 second video. Watch. I'm going to hit 24, hit OK, and all of a sudden, this layer is no longer all the way to the end. It's too short. You do not want to drag it out. That doesn't work. What you do is you sequence the layer. What is sequencing? It's essentially offsetting, right? So I'm going to hit Control D and duplicate this layer. And then I'm going to click this. And then I'm going to, let me just take these and change the color so you don't have to really look at these. You guys can focus on the layers that we want to look at. So the purple layers. So I went and duplicated the ball, and then I'm going to take that top layer and I'm going to drag it and hold down shift, and that snaps right here, so that right here and here they're going to be at the same frame. It's going to, if I play it, it loops. It's an infinite loop. And then we have a 2 second hand-drawn animation. What's even better, doing that, if you hit Control Save, we go back to the main ball bounce here, is all of a sudden everything is at the same timing. Almost. Here, let me see. Maybe it won't do that because, let's try this. Let's delete this and drag it back in. Let me see if it made that change. No, it still didn't do that. So it looks like you can't use the composition, but you can drag in the layers. So I actually will open this up, and I'm going to grab these and hit Control X as in xylophone to take that out of there. And then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to hit Control V to paste it. And notice they pasted, if I change the colors real quick so you guys can see this layer a little bit better, it pasted them end to end there in the exact way, and it'll play. This one's extra fast. I'm not sure what is happening here because it worked for me earlier. My footage. Let me just double check. It's happening twice as fast. Let me delete this one. Should be one full bounce in 1 second. Maybe it's because these have to be pre-comped first. So let's do that real quick. Let me pre-compose the After Effects one and the 3D ball. And let's not include, don't include the background layer. I have it locked. Let's include the floor on that. Shift Control C will pre-compose, and I'll put 3D and AE ball pre-comp, right? So let's see, an AE ball pre-comp. So I know it's a pre-composition. I'm going to hit OK. I want this. I'm going to delete that. I'm going to go back into here. I'm going to drag it back in. I can also fix this. Oh, duh. This is why. Is because my this is exactly what it is, right? It's thinking, like, right? I'm problem solving in my head. Why is this not working? It's because all of this is happening at 2 seconds here. We want 2 bounces. So I'm going to select these 2 layers and I'm going to hit U, right? Let me see. So I can either do one of 2 things. I can take these keyframes that are on right here. I'm pretty sure that the After Effects, yep, that's at 24 frames a second for the 3D ball. The After Effects one. Let's reinterpret that footage back. Let's go back. Okay. Something's not working here. I'm not sure where it is. I haven't lost a lot of time working on it, so I'm just going to go through here. I'm going to delete this 2D bouncing ball. I'm talking about the hand-drawn one, right? And we're going to start over here. Let's see. Save it. The main, import, file. The FLA file, import it. Sure, I'll just hit OK for now. Okay. Let's go here. Drag this full file into here. See what happens. Oh no, that one's right. So I didn't even have to interpret the footage on that because I drew it correctly the first time. And so it works like that, where the timing works. If for some reason you drew it shorter, and you only drew 12 frames, that is when you will have to, because I drew it at 2 seconds. So I drew the bounce correctly the first time. But if you only drew 12 frames, you will have to interpret that footage, and then you will have to duplicate it like that. And so what I'll do now is I'll just hit P and I'll bring that bounce over. And then struggling a little bit. Like if I wanted to scale it down so it kind of matches a little bit more, I'd hit S and bring down the scale a little bit, just slightly. Let's 100. So let's do like 95, just ever so slightly, and see how that looks. All right, that's not as bad. And then I'm going to hit P again, bring that up, and just kind of bring it up on the X value a little bit. So it just kind of drops in the same spot more. It's faster because I drew it looking like it's going faster, right? So, but in general, it is the same bounce. They have the same amount of keyframes. They all have, you know, it's 24 frames a second, so there's 48 keyframes total on everything. If you look in Adobe Animate, right, because I didn't draw, it's 12 frames a second, but I drew 24 frames. So we have 2 seconds in here. Notice here it says 2 seconds. It tells you up here which second you're at when drawing. So that is more extent into the bouncing ball. Let us move, let's move on to the text animators. We're going to finish up with, I won't be able to get to the 3D one. I'm going to tell you guys where to watch that one. But we are going to go back here. Let me open the file. I do want to show you guys the video or how to create your own contact information, right? So if I bring this back up, I'm going to go back here to modules, and then I will go to, let's go back into the student view. Typography and motion design. All right, we're going to go down here. All right. We are doing this one right here, right now. You will do this one on your own time. The 3D, the Cinema 4D one, right? And you will also, so you will want to watch on your own time these specifically 3 videos. Because it's going to show you how to do the one in Cinema 4D. So you're going to do your name in 3D, and then it's going to tell you how to assemble the project, and then it's going to tell you, like, if it's taking too long, what do I need to do? Because you don't want to sit there and have your render take forever. And so, you know, if it's taking, it should take less than a minute to render each frame. If it's really taking much longer than that, I mean, if it's taking 20 minutes a frame, there's other ways that people like get around that. They're called render farms. We do not have access to one, unfortunately, because they're expensive. So I'm going to close out of here, and we're going to get into talking more about the typography now. Remember, bad or disqualifiers when it comes to typography. Bad font choice, incorrect alignment, not legible. If there are any of those 3 things in it, redo it. Not to be said, that was quite frank. Please redo it. And then, you know, you won't have as big of issues, right? You won't hear about that. You make sure you're using the font that you get from GCC, all the approved fonts, right? No diagonal movement. We don't want any of that. Make sure it's on screen long enough and not too short. I want you guys to go through before you do your own, because, right, you're going to create, not only are you creating one like the one I'm going to make, but you're also going to create one in your own design. So you get to choose what you do with it. But make sure you follow the typography rules, and you follow the guidelines, and you know, the guidelines that I have written here for you guys. Go to this Miro board. It is on the home page of the class, and read through these before you do that, so that you know the rules. And so we're going to go back here. I already have, we've already done the fade animation, right? Right there. Typography can be faded per letter or per word. We worked on the word fade. We also have done the easing. This is the one I was telling you guys you can add the blur to. So I'm going to just click here and turn the blur on for all of them except for the background, right? The background doesn't move. We don't have to worry about that. And I hit play, and you'll watch the blur as they move off. It makes it look faster. It sells the illusion of fast motion. You know, you can see motion blur in real life if you take your hand and you just flap it super fast in front of your face, and it looks like a blur, right? You can't see the details. So add that motion blur to it to make it nicer. And so here I have all of my information set up. You guys can put your website information there. My website right now is under construction. Bad for me, so I need to do that. But don't use my name. Don't use my information. I want you guys to use your information, and there's a reason for this for later in class. So make sure you're adding in there, you know, you want your name on here. You want your Instagram or your Behance information, your email, and then if you have a website, or you can do, you know, if you don't have a website or you don't have one of those, pick another one, right? Like, so if you have this and a Behance, you have an Instagram and Behance or Vimeo or something, put any kind of tags or information that you want people to know to look you up and see your work. That's what will be here. And so it's all set up. There is no motion. But let's kind of plan this ahead, right? Like what I'm gonna do is I'm going to, for this one, do kind of a basic one, right? The one in your own style, you guys can get way more creative and have more fun with it as long as you're sticking to those rules, right? And so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take each one of these, and I'm going to animate them from up here off screen, and then I'm going to animate them down into place. So then we're going to animate backwards like we spoke about last class. One of the things I want you guys to notice is that each one of these pieces of information is its own separate layer. If you hit enter, you don't have as much control, right? So you don't want to type it in, hit enter, type the rest in, hit enter, and type the last thing in. No, you want to create a layer, type that in, duplicate that layer, update the text to whatever you want it to be, and then do it again for the third time. And then you make sure all of your anchor points are in the bottom left corner, and you line it up to your grid. Okay? So that's how we got to where we are now. Make sure you have a background. You might notice right now that I have a bunch of extra space on this side right here, right? And they cut off at 7 frames a second. Well, if I wanted to do the full 10 seconds here, right, I could go here and I could hit Alt N bracket, and each layer that I'm selected on will change the length of the layer. But I don't want that. 7 seconds will be good enough, I think, for this one. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to hit N to trim the composition work area, and then I'm going to fully trim it, right, to 7 seconds. So that's all we need. I believe so. Let me just double check something real quick. Just want to check my notes to make sure that is... whatever. We'll do it at 7 seconds, and if we need to extend it later, you guys will see how we do that. So the first thing I want to do is, like I said, we're working backwards, right? So I want this to settle in and be on frame at probably a minute or a second and a half. So I'm going to go here and I'm move the playhead to the 1 second 12 frames, right? As you can see here on the time code. Hours, minutes, seconds, frames, right? And I'm going to select all of my information, holding down, I'm going to select one and hold down Shift to select them all. And I'm going to click the stopwatch on one of it, and it keyframes them all. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the playhead back. This is animating backwards, right? And I'm going to take all of these and I'm going to move them up because I want them to come from the top to the bottom. And then I'm going to want them to stay on screen for someone long enough to watch it. In fact, you know what? I do not want it animating off screen because I want this to be at the end of something. The end of a video or a movie or something like that. This is a digital contact card essentially, right? So we do not want to animate anything off. So I'm just going to animate the text moving from the top to the bottom. Does it look good? No. Why? We need the easing. So I'm going to select all of these keyframes, and I'm going to teach you guys a little shortcut here. At least if you are on a PC. If you're on a Mac, it doesn't work like this. But in order to automatically ease keyframes, you can hit F9 on your keyboard. If you have that, like, you know, I know some laptops do not. If you have that, great. It'll turn all of those linear keyframes into eased keyframes, which is awesome. I'll go back. If not, you'll just go into the graph editor here and you will select one at a time, and you'll select all the keyframes. You know what I did? Let's go back here and fix this real quick, because you can't change it now, I don't believe. But let's try it. I'm going to right click here and separate dimensions. It might do something funny when it comes to it, eases them. Okay. So I'll show you something here to change that, right? So let's do that, right? Because I've already got my keyframes. I don't want to deal with it. They're all eased, but whatever. I'm going to go through, separate all the dimensions. And then I'm going to take the X position, because we're not animating that. And I'm just going to untoggle this stopwatch on each one of them. And then I'm going to select all my layers and hit U. And it's all, I mean, it is all eased, I believe. Let me look at the graph. Okay, that's not bad. I want a smooth motion. I want it to kind of come down a little bit quicker, but smooth and easy here. So the S curve is actually not bad for this situation, right? Because I don't have to apply necessarily physics. I can get a little bit more creative and kind of create my own. So I'm just going to kind of exaggerate this S shape a little bit more by grabbing the keyframes and moving the Bezier handles. And so when I do that, you'll notice the motion moves a little bit differently. I also want to make sure that you guys are working in your value graph, or you can work in the speed graph too. Let's do that. I think we're going to work in the speed graph. Let me check these real quick. I'm going to undo what I did. Okay, I want to start over, right? I don't want these eased at the moment. If you come over here on this little tiny thing right here where you would add a keyframe, I believe you hold down Control and you click on it. Nope, that's not the one. Control Z to go back. Control click, Alt click. No, that's not it. Control, maybe it's Shift click. No, that's not it either. There is a shortcut to like make these keyframes. Oh, you know what? You do it directly on the keyframe. Alt. No, it's Control. So you hold down Control, you select the keyframe, hold on Control, and you click. I think you might be able to do it for all of them. Let's try. Yeah, nice. Okay. All my keyframes are back to linear. Let's work like that. Let's go into hit V, right click. Let's try the speed graph. Let's select this and see if that's where we want to work. No, we're going to do the value graph right there. All right, so I'm going to select both of these keyframes and I'm going to ease them here. We've got that S. Let's solo this layer so we can just see the one we're working with right now. And I'm going to hit play. Yeah, it's not bad. Let's exaggerate this a little bit more. Notice that the Bezier handles are moving a little bit differently. They're going this way. I think before they were going up and down. We didn't want that. We wanted it like this. So hitting the F9 might not have been the best plan there. So nice. It comes in nice and quickly. And so I'm going to do that same thing here for all of these. I'm going to drag, select, ease them, accentuate, exaggerate, right? This is exaggerating. This is part of the 12 of the principles of animation. Select this third layer, ease, exaggerate. Holding down Shift will lock these so they go straight, so you don't overshoot or anything. And then finally, for the last one, I will do the same. Right click, or grab them, not right click, ease them, Shift, drag, select, Shift, drag. There we go. So now I have it solo. I have my layer soloed. Remember, I'm just looking at that one, so I undo that, and then it brings up all my information. I'm going to hit play, and we're going to watch them. All right, not bad. Notice here that a couple of them kind of, the website information. This is a good thing that I was telling you guys not to do, right? Here's a good example. Is my words overlap each other. And that is a no-no in typography. And so why is that? It's because of the way my layers are, the like sequence that they're animating on, right? This one's going down first. So let's sequence these so they don't do that. First of all, I am going to, everything's in the right order as far as my layers, but I want this one to kind of happen quicker. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to take these keyframes and I'm going to move them over to here. I'm actually going to go to the 6th frame. I'm going to do that. And then if you hit Control in the arrow key, remember you can arrow over a specific amount. And then I'm going to go 2, 3 frames, and then I'm going to drag. And then it should be 3 frames, 1, 2, 3, perfect. And then I will go 3 more frames, 1, 2, 3, and I will drag these keyframes over. And then if I play it, watch what's going to happen. The website's going to come, then my email, then my Instagram, and then my name. And they stack. And nicely, I might add, because they're all eased. That looks awesome. That looks great. The sequencing, offsetting, you'll hear it called both things. I'm going to wrap it up here real quick. But it looks kind of dumb, right? It looks kind of boring. Not dumb, but it looks boring. There's no visual interest here. So let's add just a little something here to add to it. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to go to new and I'm going to add an adjustment layer. And that adjustment layer is going to add to the top. Notice you don't see anything, but you actually see like the layer outline, right? When you add an adjustment layer, it is a blank layer for you to add things onto. You can add effects onto them. You can put shapes onto an adjustment layer if you want to. But it's essentially like a blank layer to work with. Now, it always defaults to the size of your composition, whatever you're working in. And right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to the effects and presets, and I'm going to type in here invert. We're going to use an effect today. So let me go here and type in invert. And then we want, I think it is invert, channel invert. This one. This one specifically. Sometimes there's different ones. We do not want the image invert. We want the channel invert. So it's essentially just inverting like the RGB channels on here. And when I put that on, notice that all of a sudden it inverts the color of whatever my background was. So I'm going to save. And then that's awesome, but I don't want it to take up the whole screen, right? So I'm going to hit P on this. And I'm going to go to where everything is in place where it should. So I can move this down to kind of sit just below my name. Not too far below, right? Like I almost don't, what I want to do is I almost want to split the difference, right? So here you almost want, mine's not as even as I would like it, but you almost want the same distance from the type to the bottom of the frame as you do from the type to the top of the adjustment layer, right? You almost want the same distance there. Mine's almost doubled, so it doesn't look as great. So you can either space these out a little bit more, which I'm not going to do now for the sake of time, or bring these down further, or make them a larger size font. My font size, my name is double the size of this font here, so I mean, the work's already done at this point, but I do not, you know, for time's sake, I don't want to deal. I want to get this done for you guys. So the type comes in from the top, but let's animate this. Let's animate this from the bottom. So I'm going to hit P again, and I kind of want it to, we're going to animate backwards. I want it to come in about 2 seconds, 12 frames. It's like 2.5 seconds, right? I'm going to hit the P for position. Then I'm going to bring it in here to the last keyframe of the name of the last layer that comes in. And I am going to select that layer again, and I'm going to bring that down. And then I am going to select the keyframes and go into the graph editor. Select the Y keyframes there, and I'm going to ease them. And then I'm going to, again, don't want to change the time. Click off, click on each one and drag. And then I want to update. Why isn't it not letting me update the Bezier handles? Let me see here. Let's separate the dimensions. Let's try doing that. Move the there. Let's unease them because it's going to be an issue again. Remember, control click will bring them back to linear keyframes. And I'm going to select those keyframes again, ease them. There we go. We have the Bezier handles. And then I'm going to just accentuate. And if I go here and play, brings it up. Now I can either lengthen this if I want to. If I want to make it take longer, I can do that. I like that it goes kind of quickly, right? The one thing that I'm not a huge fan of is that it kind of starts just right after this one ends. So I actually might, I'm going to actually bring this in so it's at 1.5 seconds. And then I am going to go back to the 2.5 seconds, and I'm going to let this take an entire full second to come on screen. So I'm going to do this, play. Nice. And it's kind of sequenced, it's kind of layered a little bit differently here. So right as soon as this one kind of comes to a stop, this one starts moving. And I can bring this in a little bit more if I want to do that and make it look like kind of everything happens pretty quickly. That one's a little bit better. I think I like that more. Nice. And there you go. Contact information. Again, you guys, back to here. By next Tuesday. That's when I have it due, I believe. Let me see here. Due by, yeah, Monday, 11:59. You know, I want to see you guys get it in because I want to go over some of these with you. We need the good, better, best. So the easing type. We need the fading type. We need not only the contact information that I went over, but you also need to create your own contact information of your own design, following the typography rules. And then finally, you should have a 3D scene. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different animations that you will be turning in by next class, Tuesday. So have fun. And then don't forget, you also have this one to go through, the introduction to motion graphics, right? We have to look that up and then read and then create the 500-word post in Slack. So other than that, you guys, I hope you have a good night. I'm going to save this and we will go over it later. If you guys have more questions or anything, don't be afraid to ask. And then again, I will be out of town this weekend, so I might not be as prompt or as quick to answer, but I will definitely try. So you guys have a good night. I will talk to you on Tuesday.